If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddownstdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show, and we are back live in the Les Schwab studio.
What is up, Ron and Don Nation?
Hey, coming up on the Ron and Don Show, a new poll out says that Americans don't like being Americans. How about that? Also, we got to talk about sometimes, and this happened to me twice over the past couple days, where you call Xfinity, for instance, and you're trying to get someone on the phone. And usually you can press one, and at some point you'll get an agent. That is no longer happening. And I wonder sometimes when the call drops, is that on purpose? It just might be. Before we get to that, though, let's get to this. By the time you're listening to this podcast, this news is a little old, but I just like saying RICO charge. I just like saying RICO. Don't you like saying RICO?
RICO charge.
I was at a party over the weekend. My son and I were there, and I was talking to my good friend Jennifer, and she loves she loves listening to crime series on podcasts, and she listened to our podcast. She said, anytime you guys talk about crime, I love it. So we started talking about the Diddy trial, and I just looked at her, and I like saying Diddy and RICO, RICO charge.
Was this a freak-off party that you were at?
No.
It's a regular party.
Yeah, just a regular. That was the night before. This is a regular party.
Not a freak-off.
Not a freak-off.
How much baby oil was at this party that you were at?
Yeah.
How many gallons?
Yeah. So anyway, we started talking about a RICO charge with Diddy, and would he get off or would he not? And I have to say, I bet, and I'm not sure if it was a 6-pack of LaCroix or just 1 can of LaCroix, but I did bet her, and I said, hey, they're going to find him guilty on some of the weaker charges, but at the end of the day, maybe he'll do a year in jail, which he's already done, so he's going to get out. And I say they didn't prove the RICO charge. And if you don't know what RICO is, it has to do with racketeering, has to do with influence, it has to do with being corrupt. And then you have to show that you are an organization that has been racketeering, influencing, and corrupt. When you look at what he did, it is very, very disappointing. It's very criminal. And I wish he would have been charged with domestic violence, but that would have had to happen years ago, right? So the time to press those charges has run out. So I think the government had a very high bar. And I said, I just don't think, when you go back and you look at organized crime and the reason why they invented the RICO charge.
Was it not for freak-offs?
Yeah, anyway, what are your thoughts?
I think the interesting thing to me is a certain type of personality mix that makes it to the highest levels of the way the world is structured now. So when you think in the stuff that comes along with that, so it can be presidents, it can be princes, it can be music moguls, business leaders. When you have the type of ego and drive to do what like a Puff Daddy did, a Sean Combs, given his background and what he finally was able to do in the music industry, that sense of ambition, it seems to always run hand in hand with a dark side. And that you can think of, I always think of like President Clinton, brilliant guy, super driven. There's these other appetites that he had all the time that he needed to indulge in. And you can just go down the line of, you look at Elon Musk, the ambition and the intellect and the drive to build the companies he did. And then there's these dark urges that he has with drug use and some of the philosophical things that he does. So I think that it seems like those things go hand in hand. And so when you think about Diddy here, the control and the power that he needed, the other one that pops to mind to me is Bill Cosby, who it wasn't about sex. Because if you're Bill Cosby or you're Sean Combs, you just go, they have very many options for sexual gratification if you're a celebrity of that level. And so what is it about? It's about the power and the control and these urges and drives that they have that I think are just part of the mix of the people that do those type of things. Because when you think about it, nothing is ever enough. Like you give them $1 million, they need 10 million. They get to 10 million, they need 100 million. If they've sold a million albums, they need to send 10 million albums. If they have Biggie, they need to have another. Like it's just, there's never enough, and you can never fill that void in them. And I think that's the Puff Diddy story here. And I agree with you. There should have been some charges in there that had a significant bite to them, whether the drug-related stuff, the domestic violence things, like you said. And so, yeah, it looks like it's going to be sentencing. It's a maximum of 10 years, but they're not going to go for the full 10.
No, and so they don't prove those charges. The defense doesn't send him up there. They don't send anyone up there. The prosecutor, anytime you do a 5-hour closing argument, you know that you've probably lost. So in what he did, especially when you look at that videotape, is horrendous. But we had heard a lot of things, and the jury knows this. They had heard a lot of things about other celebrities that were involved. We didn't see that. We had heard a lot of things about minors being involved. We really didn't see that. And then also when you look back at the text messages that these women had with him, I think it'd be one thing if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but for some of them it was 10, 11 years. So again, were they victims? Absolutely. Did they all? Are there hundreds of people now putting out their hands for a payday? Because as he gets through this trial now, he's going to face all those civil trials.
Right?
Will he have enough money left to settle all those? We'll see. And the bar's going to be much lower on that, Ron, because you don't have to prove RICO charges here. So I thought it was interesting that he'll probably do a year or two, or maybe he's already done that time. He'll get out. He'll face those civil penalties. And at the same time, I just didn't feel like what the government promised. I didn't feel like they delivered on that. And again, the bar is very high because they use these charges to go after organized crime, and they had to prove that he created kind of an organized crime. That's what Bad Boys was. It's that it was organized crime. It doesn't seem like Bad Boys.
Well, and again, the interesting to me is he still has the music catalog. He still will get royalty checks off the Bad Boys catalog. But a guy like Puff Daddy can't just go, you know what, I'm going to enjoy. I'm 55. Like, I've had an incredible career. Let me just go enjoy life. I'm going to, travel through Europe, or I'm going to give some money back. I'm going to have some philanthropy, whatever it is. He won't be able to do that, in my estimation. Like, that type of personality, he's just going to continue to press, and it will it'll probably lead to his eventual downfall.
In the age of Trump, he's going to be celebrated because this is the clapback from the Me Too movement, and we're seeing that now. We're seeing that now. So the pendulum of justice swings, and it's swinging in a particular rhythm right now. And I think there was probably somebody sitting on that jury that got on that jury that was never going to convict him in the first place. So anyway, we will see you in 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. Hey, you guys, what's going on? It is Ron and Don for Les Schwab Tires. It's been about a month now since we got our new Les Schwab tires. And in fact, I went to Les Schwab right here in Ballard. I talked to Evan, and Evan came out and he said, you guys have this brand new, well, it's new to us. It's a 2002 Eurovan that we actually use for the Ron and Don show. And he said, you know what? That's a little heavier than most vans. In fact, let me do this and spend some time and special order you a very special Les Schwab tire with America's best tire warranty. You also get the great 60-day satisfaction. That's guaranteed. And if the tires don't feel right, you can bring them back within 60 days, no hassle. And here's the cool thing. I went on a test drive with a Volkswagen technician the other day who's been fixing Eurovans for the last, 30 years. And when he got in the van, he has a Eurovan himself, and he's been in hundreds of them. He said, this is the best riding Eurovan I have ever been in. He said, where'd you get these tires? I said, I got these tires. We got these tires for our business from Les Schwab Tire, of course.
Yeah, and that 60-day satisfaction guarantee gives you peace of mind. Other places charge you extra, but at Les Schwab, they're America's best tire warranty. That is included with every set of tires. It's one more way they truly stand behind what they sell. That's why you get more from less. Visit your Les Schwab store today or book an appointment at leschwab.com. That's leschwab.com.
If you find yourself dreaming about a new home, go from just a dream to the dream team. Schedule your time at ronandonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Again, if you need us, just reach out, ronandonsitdown.com, and we can sit down about your real estate journey today. New poll out says that Americans don't like being Americans.
Well,
what do you make of this?
It depends on where you're at on the political spectrum. So this is a poll that's done every year by the Gallup company, where they go out and they poll Americans and they try to find everyone across the political spectrum and basically say, are you extremely patriotic, extremely proud to be American, very proud to be American, or not proud to be an American? And what they found in this latest one is the highest levels of dissatisfaction for people that lean Democratic in how they feel about America, and some of the highest levels for Republicans of how they feel about America. The interesting thing to me that I jumped out to me in this poll was, as you get younger, as the demographics get younger, there's more and more displeasure with the concept of America, regardless of political affiliation. I found that to be very interesting, and I think, for me, and maybe you can speak to this with your son's generation, this one thing that always bothered me when we used to work at the radio station was there was people that would get in this the greatest country in the world and like all this greatest stuff, and it's like, in some categories, but in other categories not. Like there was this feeling that America was the greatest across the board in everything, full stop. And if anyone ever tried to question that you were somehow unpatriotic. And I always like to push back against that and go, America is a great country, no doubt about it. But the greatest country, and I always think of the Daniel Tosh episode or joke he had on a special of the comedian, and he would say, "Have you seen pictures of Belize? Seems pretty nice." And he's like, have you ever been to these different countries? So, what's it like with kids your son's age? Do they have this American patriotic, we're the best in everything kind of thrust?
I'm not trying to raise an American at my house. I don't think America should be first. When we talked a little bit about Christian nationalism, and I grew up after the Catholic Church in Christian nationalism, and I don't get it, because if the message is that the first shall be last, that is what the New Testament is all about, is placing yourself in a position to live a life of service to help others, right? Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And we have come to a place in America, and the president is great at this. And if you read his book, The Art of the Deal, this is what Roy taught him, is to be a labeler and label things. So that's where you got the sleepy Joe Biden. That's what you got the crooked Hillary Clinton. Every adversary that he went up against, he would label. Along with that, there's not a lot of civility sometimes, and it's also really mean. Like, some of the things he's doing, I actually agree with. But the way that they're being presented with the division, there's not room for someone else to think a certain way, right? And I'll look at Europe, for instance, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? They probably should pay more for their defense. And at the same time, what was it like to walk in a pride parade this weekend? Just wondering, when the parade is all over and the people that are around you that have rallied to love and care about you, and especially here in Seattle, we'll continue to have arms wide open for the gay community. But you think of other communities where those doors are beginning to close, where young people are afraid to come out. And in a lot of ways, for that particular community, this current administration has set us back decades. So as far as being an American, I don't want my son to necessarily be an American. I'm trying to raise a world citizen. And something that I've learned from you, Ron, and others is when you travel, you get perspective. You not only get perspective about the places that you go, the beauty that you see, the joy that people have, especially the people that have nothing, and you look at them and you're like, wow, Why do they have so much more joy than I do? Because we're the land of stuff. We're the land of consuming things. But now we're the land of not being civil with each other. Now we're the land of being mean girls toward each other. Now we're the land where, at least when politicians used to lie to you, they did it with a wink and a nod. And now they just hold a press conference every day and they just freaking lie to you. And I look at this big, beautiful bill. Well, it's not beautiful for a lot of people that are already suffering in this country. And I think the thing that's upsetting to me is when I look at the America that we're in, and my son and I do talk about this, it seems like the least of these are getting pushed toward the back of the line. The least of these are being marginalized. And not just here in the States, but even if you stick up for the people of Gaza and what's happening in the West Bank right now, or what's happening on the Gaza Strip, if you say anything in support of those people there that are facing famine and that are dying, you can be immediately, and here's the labeling, you're anti-Semitic. I am not anti-Semitic, but when I turn on the television set and I see the people of Gaza headed towards famine, and I see the United States looking the other way, that really bothers me. And it used to be America comes to the rescue. We like that story. That's why we like the World War II story so much, because it's a story of America coming to the rescue for the rest of the world. And I just wonder where that America is today.
Yeah, I think that is reflective in this poll. And the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller every single day. And to build those walls up now and go, no, we don't. We want to reject that. It's just not. It's not the way I want to live.
Yeah, and if you believe it, there's a pearly gates and there's going to be a judgment day. Do you really think if you stand there with your flag from America that's what counts? Or will it be, hey, I was at the front of the line and I gave up my seat and I went to the back and I lived a life of service and I cared about others and I loved others. And when I disagreed with others, I could still disagree with them in a civil manner, in a civil fashion. And I think we'll see that in my son's generation coming up. And I think we'll see that as boomers age and age out and die. I think the young people behind us are not going to put up with this. We'll see in a minute.
Ron and Don, from radio to real estate. When you're ready to grab a cup of coffee and sit down with the guys, go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. When you make phone calls, especially if you're calling like a service provider, are you running into AI a lot more? And what's your experience been?
We're getting right now. We're training the AIs of these big companies, and it is
How so? How does that work?
Well, you have the large language models are one area of AI, like the ChatGPT is a large language model where they need to consume a tremendous amount of natural text, and then it somehow synthesizes new answers. And so when you transfer that over to voice, similar deal. It's like the AI, it's not I am not an AI expert, but the way I understand it, back in the day when, I was a kid or Matt off the mic was a kid, you would write a program that was linear.
In COBOL.
You would say, I learned BASIC when I was a kid, COBOL. Yeah, exactly. You would say, enter a number between 1 and 100, and you would enter 65, and then you would take that answer and maybe do some math with it. So it was linear, went step by step by step, and this is a very simple example. But then at the end, you could say your answer is 163, whatever that is.
Yep.
These large language models do not operate in that way. They are bringing in information, and they're using complex algorithms to try to create synthesized answers. And so for these tech companies, when they're using the phone call or the text message or the interaction on the screen, they're trying to solve problems from the company, but they're trying to see if they can do it without human beings.
Right.
That's right. So like your example, maybe with like Airbnb, there's only a certain number of problems with an Airbnb. Like, something wasn't clean. I got locked out. there's probably several dozen problems.
I just had a little girl get out her Barbie makeup and her Barbie pink nail polish and go to town in one of my luxury homes. She took out the carpet, she took out the couch, she took out a sidewall. I mean, it was everywhere. And now I'm having to deal with AI. It used to be I could get someone on the phone. Right. Now I'm having to deal with AI.
So you're training the AI of Airbnb
to get reimbursed
because it's like, okay, damage. It's gonna try to create this large language model of how can I, using AI, filter this down to a solution without using a person.
Yeah.
And so right now we're training that AI. And so every interaction that you have is going to be folded into this model until, maybe 2 years from now or 3 years from now, you can get a smooth resolution to that problem because it's going to have enough cases and enough language and enough solutions in there to where it's like, oh, this happened and Mr. O'Neill was satisfied. At the end of this process, he felt like he was made whole. He was satisfied. That's going to be weighted in a certain way. In this other interaction, they were not satisfied and it continued to drag on. And so it will calculate that and massage that, if you will, into the future AI. But right now it's not smooth.
Yeah. I have a business partner, and we own a home together on Queen Anne, and then we own a backyard cottage. So we've been doing some work to the backyard cottage. In the backyard cottage, at one point, there had been a fire back there, so we disconnected the modem and we disconnected the service. So I was over there the other day, and I'm trying to get the service reconnected. So I call my partner and I say, "Hey, would you like to call Xfinity?" He's like, "No way." He goes, "I don't have 4 or 5 hours for that nonsense today."
Right.
He said, "You do it." So anyway, first thing I did is I jumped online because they encourage you to jump online. And I said, "Hey, I have a house with a modem and I have a backyard cottage with a modem. And it's connected to my phone line."
When you say, "Hey," you're typing this into a screen or you're speaking through a phone? What do you mean?
So I'm typing all this into a screen.
A chatbot.
Yeah, and then I'm saying I need to talk to a live person because I have another property that has a house and a modem, and it's that modem in the backyard cottage that I need to turn on.
See, here's what's interesting. I'm going to jump in here real quick. From the company's point of view, you do not need to talk to a person. That's what they do. They hook up modems. Why would I spend money to have this clown talk to a person? Because you're doing the most simplest thing that we do as a company. So I'm going to shovel you into that chatbot.
Yeah.
Because that's basic.
Here's the problem, though. The AI kept turning on and off the modem in my other cottage.
Correct.
Because I have a house and a cottage,
Yep.
2 modems where I live, and then I have a house and a cottage in this rental. The AI thinks that it's talking about the cottage at my personal house, and I'm trying to get the AI to understand, no, it's the other cottage.
Right.
We're talking 2 properties, 4 modems here. So then I went online, then I called, and then usually with Xfinity, just keep pressing 1 or 0, and you can get a live agent on. It will hang up on you now when you try to do that. And then I was reading this article that said, hey, those drop calls, sometimes when you, and I'm not accusing Xfinity of doing this, but they're saying some of these organizations out there are dropping those calls on purpose. And it used to be with Xfinity and some of the other ones, you could eventually get a live person. This is what I had to do. I finally went into the Xfinity store, and then the guy told me, he goes, "Man, I'm sorry that happened to you." He explained to me exactly what I was going through because he could see it on his computer. And he said, "We go through the exact same thing because we used to have backlines that we could call to get things fixed." And he said, "We can't do that anymore. We're calling the same phone number that you are, and we're dealing with the same AI that you're dealing with." He had just dealt with this problem before because of there's lots of backyard cottages around here, so we were able to get it turned around and fixed. But it ended up between going to the Xfinity store, being online and being on the phone, and trying to explain to it, like if I could talk, like he immediately got it when I explained it to him in 2 minutes. AI either online or on the phone did not. So.
Well, that's the thrust of this article that was interesting. It's a very long article saying companies now are building in. They're labeled it sludge.
Sludge, that's
because
right.
Because they create sludge through the process. Everything that you just mentioned, because there's a certain percentage of people that just give up
Yes.
and they say F it.
Right.
I'll just pay the bill. Like, this isn't worth it anymore. It's just going to go away, and never mind.
Yep.
Like, this doctor bill should have been covered by insurance. It's $183. Like, this isn't even worth it
Right.
for me to spend 40 hours trying to unravel this bill. I'll just pay the $189.
Yeah.
So they build sludge in to do exactly what you just said. They want you to give up. And they have found in a lot of these businesses with the AI thing that just adds to the bottom line. So the number of people that give up just goes right back to their profit margin.
Yeah.
And even if, like, I had a similar thing with an airline. I was flying last week with United Airline. One of the worst flights of my life. But
Why was it so bad?
well, lots of things. But from United's point of view, it's like they just don't care anymore. Like, what do you get? Because it's a commodity. So, like, hey, if you want to fly to this destination and we have the cheapest price, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Like, that's their attitude. Like, what are you going to do about it? We don't care. Our plane was full. So, like, screw you, customer. Doesn't matter what I think anymore or what my experience was like. And then I felt bad for the flight attendants at the end that have to go through the script. Totally joyless. We hope you enjoyed your flight. Please fill out the form. And they knew it was a crappy flight. And they still have to go through that. Thanks for flying. Stand at the door and say thanks for flying. And when every passenger on that plane wanted to punch him in the face as you're leaving the plane.
The people was it the plane's fault or was it the people that were serving you?
Well, I'll give you the one example that is just infuriating is United Airlines, which I've flown my entire life on and off. They've now switched to, and I don't know how recent this happened. It's probably been a couple of years ago. They have economy, and then they have basic economy.
Well, what about Economy Plus?
And Economy Plus.
Yeah.
Basic economy, which is the advertised price. So when you go to Google Flights or Kayak or Expedia or whatever, and you see, I'm going to fly to Chicago, and it's $249. Like, great. That works for me. It's a good time. I'm in. You buy that flight. In the fine print, it says that if you're basic economy, you cannot bring a bag on the plane with wheels. Doesn't matter if that bag is smaller than a backpack.
Oh, no.
The fact that it has wheels, they're going to call you out. And so my girlfriend and I were flying on United. And so I have my normal backpack. It's a decent sized backpack. And she has a mini roller bag in her laptop. We get to the gate. She gets called out of line, and they charge $65 to check her bag, make her forcibly check her bag.
Oh, they used to do it for free.
Yeah, it's $65 now to forcibly check that bag. That fits in the overhead compartment, fits underneath the seat in front of her, is smaller than the backpack that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
But because it has wheels, and they said, well, you could have bought, above economy Plus or whatever. It's like, it's...
And then you're allowed
so it's
then
the
you're
same price.
Then you're allowed to have wheels?
Then you're allowed to have wheels. So it's like, you're saying that I either pay you $65, basically at gunpoint.
Oh my gosh.
As we're getting on the plane, or I could have paid $65 to get a higher upgraded ticket.
Wow.
And so that's just one of the things that happened with United.
So did you take that on, or did you?
Well, they didn't tell me they're going to charge me. It just showed up on my credit card. They force you to put a credit card in now to confirm to get your boarding pass. You have to put a credit card in with United, or they won't give you your boarding pass on your phone.
And then they just charge
And
you.
so then it just, when I landed, because you don't have Wi-Fi on the plane, I land and it goes bink, $65. And
Well, you do have Wi-Fi. They charge you $30 for it.
Right.
It never works. The fake Wi-Fi.
Everything is.
You spend the whole time
now.
trying to get on the Wi-Fi, and then 6 hours later you're landing.
So my point is like the AI. It's like, it's sludge. That's the sludge in the system where they can go, hey, it's in the fine print.
Yeah.
You could have bought Economy Plus, where it's like, you know what? You've just made someone that never wants to use your product ever again.
Yeah.
Over $65.
Does this all get better with United and Xfinity and Airbnb? Is this going to get better over time, do you think?
Because Xfinity's point of view in Seattle is, we've already built out the infrastructure. What are you going to do?
Right.
Who are you going to use for your internet?
That's right. Yeah.
So deal with it, O'Neill.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ron and Don Show. We sure do appreciate it. And thanks for allowing us to be your broadcasters, your friends, and your real estate brokers. If you're thinking about buying, if you're thinking about selling, if you're thinking about investing, now is a great time to sit down with us. We use something called a Ron and Don Sit Down.
Yeah, we'd love to partner with you right now, especially looking to next year. I was talking to someone the other day, and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to hit this number on my house." I was like, "I think you can get that number in the spring of next year if we started now, because there's things you need to do, and you would have enough time to hit that number if we start now."
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, for a lot of people, if you have the foresight to look into 3, 6, even 8, 9 months down the road, we can hit that number. Why not take your time to do it instead of a mad dash at the end?
And we'll meet you wherever you're at on your journey. Like, we have one client right now who doesn't live. She's older, around 80. She lives in another state, and someone passed away and left a property for her. And so we're going through that property right now, getting ready to bring it to market. And it all started with a Ron and Don sit down with her. In fact, we're going to sit down with her a little bit later today and go over some finishes. So we have people many, many times they're out of state, or they're not in the area and they've inherited a home. So we do lots of that, lots of estate stuff. And then also a lot of people will call us and say, "Hey, I want to be really involved in the process of selling this house. I want to be involved in picking the floor, picking the paint." And so we get together, we collaborate, we make a team. And we've had a lot of great success together. So if you need us, reach out, ronanddonsitdown.com. It's never too early to sit down. Some of the homes we're selling next spring, we sat down in the spring of 2025, and we're selling those in the spring of 2026. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com, get signed up for the newsletter. And also, we have 2 books we can send you. They're just ebooks. Talks about buying and selling. We'll send those to you along. Maybe even get you a Ron and Don coffee mug that says, "I sat down with Ron and Don." All right. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Grace. Thanks to my son, Gunnar. Also, our dog, Charlie the dog. He's the executive producer of the Ron and Don Show. He's Ron. I'm Don. Until next time, you keep your head up and your shoulders back. And you've been listening to the Ron and Don Show only on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.